Hi, my name is Remy. I'm an emotional resilience and empowerment coach who works with sensitive people, as I am also one myself. Today, I would like to talk about organizing your mind. I wanted to introduce this idea to you because I think it might be helpful for you as a sensitive. Actually, it could benefit anyone, but I'll be talking about it more through the lens of sensitivity, as this is who the video is meant for. What do I mean by organizing your mind, and why is it helpful? Okay, so as a sensitive, you have a sensing capability that is very finely tuned. It is top notch. And you are probably picking up on a lot of information and processing a lot of that. Um, a lot of it is happening unconsciously, and you might be making intuitive decisions without even really being aware of it. But at times, you may also find yourself overthinking things and overanalyzing things, ruminating about what happened. And then that might be lead to catastrophizing about what could happen in the future, or becoming very pessimistic. And that can leave you as a sensitive feeling very stressed and overwhelmed and depressed. That is not a good place for you to be in. It's not a place that you can thrive. How can you stay organized in your mind so that this doesn't happen? So here are some suggestions. One of them is to learn how to separate the bare facts from your interpretations. Now, I know that as a sensitive, you may be trusting what you are picking up implicitly, and probably because most of the times you do turn out to be right. To see if you can separate that from the very bare facts of what had happened, so that you can just maintain a little bit of space between all of the things that you've uh, gathered and from what actually happened. Okay, I know that, like I said, you may be correct 99% of the time, but there is a 1% chance that it was your interpretation only. Just be aware that whatever you have in your mind and you're holding on to in your mind is going to be a hypothesis for now. And that's all. That's just going to help to ground you, and try to hold off on the overthinking. Another tip is to see if you can separate your thoughts from your feelings. Now, I know that this is very, very hard, even for non-sensitive people. It tends to become a giant mishmash, a tangled web of thoughts and feelings, and they just kind of, compound each other, and it gets bigger and bigger until it just overwhelms you. So naming your feelings, like they say, helps to tame them. It's like you're separating the giant pile of whatever you have, the feelings and thoughts, into separate, smaller little piles, so that it becomes more manageable. It's just about creating some more space for mindfulness. And that's all it is, really, just so that you have some breathing room and some more clarity. The third tip that I would like to suggest might be the most important one, and that is to firmly set a boundary between you and your inner critic or your inner judge. So all of us have an internalized voice that comes from our parents, our peers, our society, culture, the collective, that tells us how we should be, how we should act, what is right and wrong, what is good and bad. And we are constantly measuring ourselves against that voice. As a sensitive, I think you are very familiar with that when you find yourself judging yourself for your sensitivity. So this is not new. And I think a lot of us tend to believe that our inner critic is trying to help us solve a situation or help us to improve ourselves, correct our own mistakes. But actually, this is where, as a sensitive, you just want to draw a gentle but firm boundary between that inner critic and say, okay, I understand where you're coming from and what you're trying to do, but I'm going to ask you to hold off and just wait. And you honor yourself. You hold the space for yourself with kindness and compassion and just an unconditional acceptance. You're just being a human. You're just doing the best that you can. And that is completely okay. So when you give yourself enough of that kindness and compassion and unconditional acceptance, you will eventually feel better. And when you are feeling ready to, you can invite, this time, not your inner critic or your judge, but your inner best friend to come and help you explore with more lighthearted curiosity. Why did I feel that way? Why did I react that way? What made me think this way? Just so that you get to understand yourself a little bit better. That's all it is. Doing these three things, separating the bare facts from your interpretations, trying to separate your thoughts from feelings, or at least naming your feelings, and most of all, setting that internal boundary between you and your inner critic and judge. These are going to help to strengthen your self-awareness and your self-understanding. And it's also going to help you make you feel more in control of yourself. It might even also help you to communicate your needs a little bit better. I think sometimes sensitive people have a hard time asking for support. Knowing what exactly is going on inside of you and being able to express, very clearly what you need to a non-sensitive person is also going to be very empowering for you. So, by the way, these things that I mentioned, they also relate to a few pillars in my self-empowerment framework. So the pillars that I touched on today are emotions, boundaries, and self-love. But there are 5 more pillars in my framework, which are beliefs, inner parts, needs, self-care, and support. And these 8 pillars, they support each other. And I sort of designed them that way so that they would help you to create some more inner clarity, so that's more inner organization, which means that you have a stronger inner foundation, okay? So that as a sensitive, you can be more resilient and more empowered in your day-to-day life. So I hope that was helpful. If you enjoyed this video, please do visit my website to explore more of the work that I do. And if you like, you could also join my monthly newsletter where I do talk more about each of these pillars. And that's a nice way for us to stay connected. So again, thank you so much for watching. I hope that our paths cross again. Take care. Bye.